I really wanted to love this so badly, but in the end, I think it's the trash of the year. I love space adventures. I love utopian, positive visions of the future. I love crazy visuals that are really out there. I love goofy, silly things if they're fitting the tone of the movie. For example, I really dig Speed Racer a lot, even if there aren't many people out there that do. Luc Besson's The Fifth Element was also one of my favorite movies growing up, but to be honest, I wasn't paying much attention to his newest film, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, and I think that's mainly because I thought Lucy was a big mess. I haven't watched the trailers. But then, a few days ago, first reviews came in, and while they are kind of lukewarm, some praised the excess and creative visuals, and there were even some connections to Speed Racer made. So I thought, yes, I will go in, falling in love with it, and then praise it for what it is. But I have to admit, this wasn't working at all for me. But for the first half hour or so, I was still very engaged, so why not start with something positive here? The very first sequence was pretty amazing. We start way back in the past when mankind was aiming for the stars, and we jump quickly towards the future and see how first we approach each other's nations in space and then finally other alien races. And it's all accompanied by David Bowie's Space Oddity, which might be cheesy, but it worked so well. So right from the start we get introduced to this new fascinating world that will throw so many different cool designs at us in the next 2 hours. But shortly after, the first big problem emerges. The introduction to the world works quite well, but the entry point to the actual story felt completely muddled, and it was way harder than it should have been to actually tell what Valerian and Laureline's mission really is. So let's talk about Valerian and Laureline, two special operatives who are called in to help with some kind of dark mystery revolving around Alpha, a vast metropolis and home to species from 1,000 planets. Hence the title. With a movie like this, I normally don't have big issues with tonal shifts, but when we go from a woman dying to a comical beach scene of our two heroes in swimwear, it wasn't the best start, and what follows is a very eerie exposition scene where we should believe that Valerian, played by DeHaan, is some kind of space womanizer and apparently the best agent there is. From the get-go, it's not quite clear if his overly expressed feelings for his partner Laureline, played by Cara Delevingne, are true or just a show to get her into bed. The chemistry between them never catch up, and they have no real arc or progression or anything that interesting going for them. And even worse, that goes for the story as well. Instead of creating a great premise, we get the movie's longest and, to be honest, also most interesting and innovative action sequence that evolves around multiple dimensions and playfully works with ideas of virtual reality, avatars and 3D. It was very fresh and entertaining, but already lacking some basic information regarding what's really going on and why we should care about it, especially as it seemed that our two main protagonists didn't care that much either. Which could work if the idea was to establish their relationship while throwing them into some action, but it all stayed very shallow and too childlike. There's nothing wrong with childlike, but I didn't think Valerian and Laureline evoke any kind of stakes, and with the stuff happening later in the movie, it didn't all come together that well. Or to be quite honest, I don't think the characters and story work at all. The movie is based on the French comic series Valerian and Laureline, and while I haven't read it, I can tell that at least the main character not only looks very different, but he's also supposed to be very kind, strong and brave. Don't get me wrong, Dane DeHaan is a good actor and he isn't a mean guy at all in the movie, but he also didn't strike me as the charismatic hero type either. And not all space adventures need that, but this would have benefited from that, I guess. And throughout the movie, both of them never brought any emotions to the table that exceed the level of just an insignificant, light banter, which would be okay if A, they were charismatic and funny enough, but attempts to be funny and cool misfires completely most of the time, and B, the story wouldn't require at least some kind of stakes or seriousness. But it does, even if it only really unfolds at the very end, and that's another problem, and for me something way more important than the pale heroes. Valerian's story is presented as some kind of mystery, but it fails completely to intrigue you. There are many scenes and even a whole passage where the actual story comes to a halt, and we focus on either Lorelei saving Valerian or vice versa. It has a very episodic nature to it, but without the audience really knowing what the main story is all about, and without characters that grab you, I have to be honest, all the crazy and creative designs aside, it brought me out of my mind. And it's also not enough to have all those crazy visuals and great ideas when the execution isn't there. Some people are raving about the world building, and I think there are a lot of awesome design choices and cool concepts, but there wasn't a real understanding of just how that world exists. Alpha is supposed to be this giant melting pot, this utopia where all species are learning from each other and working together. At least that's what I took away from it. And yet there are also creatures that will eat the top of your head. There's also no comprehensible flair of space and how those places fit together. Of course, it's one of the charms that you feel overwhelmed by it, but the way Valerian and all the others are moving through this world comes across as a video game, and all those effects don't save you when you know and feel that nothing is real. And it's not artificial or abstract enough like Speed Racer, for example. It's still very much in the realm of your normal blockbuster, even with all its excess. More than once I was reminded of the Star Wars prequels that also lack in story, dialogue, characters, and instead are constantly throwing effects at you. Luc Besson wrote the screenplay for this all by himself, and unfortunately it's a big mess that's neither particularly interesting or intriguing or funny or adventurous. It's just overloaded and cluttered and full of ideas that aren't going anywhere. It's a movie that could be picked apart scene by scene, and maybe it's quite fascinating in that regard, but I didn't feel the kinetic energy some critics are speaking of. In German I'd say ein riesiges Monster von einem Film, das zuweilen visuell zu betören vermag, aber im Grunde hinten und vorne nicht funktioniert. I give Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets 4.5 out of 10. It's more like 4.4, but I don't do that.
I taught him how to do that.
Alright, that's it like always. Comment below, let me know what you think about Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. And also let me know what's your favorite movie by Luc Besson. You can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram simply at The Jimmy Cage. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.